This is something that's been on my mind for a minute. And this is something, this is a particular topic that I wanted to write on my WordPress blog, but I never got around to doing it because I wrote so many other topics about other shit. As far as I'm concerned, and this is not a direct swipe, I'm not making a generalization or putting everyone in a particular category, but there's a lot of reasons why I have a very strong contempt for older generations, particularly older black people. Now, I'm not going to sit up and say that the older generation is, every ethnic group has their problems. And to be honest with you, I really don't understand. I really don't see why any group of people have so much pride or cultural pride, And the same thing can be said about American culture, Middle Eastern culture. See, culture is like a cult. It's a short word for culture. Culture is just another way of saying cult. So, same thing can be said about societies and civilizations. While civilizations and societies, by their very definition, are very dysfunctional by their own nature. And I'll have to talk about that topic some other time. Now, I recall, and this is just basic common sense because of how American society has always treated blacks. And I remember Sergeant Willie Pete made a video a long time ago, and I forgot what video it is, and I got very little love for Sergeant Willie Pete, but when some people are on point, they are on point. You chew meat, you spit out the fucking bone. It's like during the 1950s and 60s, you had the civil rights movement, and I'm pretty confident, and Sergeant Willie Pete said the same thing, and I knew it in the back of my mind. I'm pretty damn confident you had a lot of black respectability Negroes who talk all this shit about respectability or, groveling for white acceptance, like, acting like fucking dogs begging for their owners to accept them and to treat them nice and give them mediocre treats and rewards. I'm pretty sure that back in the 50s and the 60s, and even during the Nat Turner Rebellion of the 1800s, you had a lot of these black respectability church Negroes trying to present themselves as gentle giants. In the back of their mind, what do they say? There go those Negroes damaging the natural order of things. There go those Negroes, they're starting up trouble again. They're starting up trouble and they're being disobedient. They're gonna fuck it up for everyone. Well, the same thing can be said about today's generation. Now, I know I've said this in some other videos that I've made, that like the Steve the Dean Williams types. I used to be friends with him on Facebook. I'm not anymore. I had to delete him and unfriend him and block him because it's like every week at one point he was always shitting on Colin Kaepernick and shitting on Shannon Sharp and talking about, oh, fuck Shannon Sharp and his race baiting ass, fuck Cap, and nobody has to treat you with no type of respect, and and then when the NBA commissioner says all players must stand or else, Steve the Dean Williams applauding that shit. That's how you shut shit down. And I know that there were a lot of niggas who acted like that back in the 50s and the 60s. And now you got a lot of young people in today's generation who feel like, well, we got to clean up this damn mess that our previous generation made. Our previous generation made a very fucked up mess, and they left a very fucked up mess. Now we got to clean it up. So why is it that you have a lot of young people who don't have no respect for older generations? Why is that? Now you got a lot of conservative idiots who believe, well, because the older generation, all they cared about was having orgasms and getting high on something. No. Look, let me tell you something. There's a lot of people in today's generation who don't have kids, and since a lot of young men in this generation don't have no kids, don't want no kids, and that's the last thing on their mind, me included. I don't give a fuck about marriage and children. So a lot of generations just are full of men and women who just want to get high and have an orgasm. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you have children and grandchildren, okay, that's something totally different. Then you do have to change your hookup. You have a lot of men who are irresponsible and they want to be players, but then they have sons that they don't take care of, and they wonder why when their sons get grown, their sons shit all over them. And the fact that I didn't have a I still don't have a relationship with my biological father. I had a stepfather, and I consider him my real father because he took time out with me, even though I pushed his ass away at times. And me and my stepfather, we always butt heads, and he would shit test me. That's another story, and I'm going to make another video talking about my two fathers, biological and stepfather. So that's another story. But a lot of young people feel like the older generation of blacks have failed them. Of course, some idiots are going to believe it, that they're going to blame it all on sex and drugs and rap or rock and roll or whatever. But what it really is that the older generation of blacks, they beg for white acceptance. They went out of their way to try to prove to white people and white American society they were a bunch of gentle giants. They beg for respectability and acceptability. I wrote a topic back in 2015 on my WordPress blog about my hatred for black respectability politics. And this was like a week or two after Advocatus Diaboli wrote a topic about, he wrote a topic about why black people refuse, or why black people stop caring about respectability and, black respectability and all that bullshit. But you do have some people in today's generation who still want to emulate that bullshit. You got idiots who call themselves black conservatives, black respectability, and all that garbage, that obsidian bullshit. Oh, we need a zero tolerance policy on tattoos and backwards hats and smoking weed and it's no different from all that Afrocentric bullshit. Oh, black men and black women must get married and have kids because that is the gun and that is the weapon to defeat white supremacy, which means that you have to give up all your desires and all of your natural tendencies for a victory that you might not even live long enough to see. And to me, that's a fucking minstrel show. Matter of fact, that back in the 60s, you had the civil rights movement. And it wasn't just black civil rights. You had the feminism 2.0. They all stood up against white patriarchy. They got tired of white men shitting on them. And white men, unfortunately, still shitting on the world. But that time is almost up. And the only reason why whites in America, they accept these peaceful, non-violent Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks types is because they were nothing but a lesser of two evils, because they knew that the other guys were not fucking around with them. The Black Panther parties and the Malcolm X's. They knew that. Even though back in the 50s and the 60s, whites was like, okay, Martin Luther King, we know that nigga's not gonna do anything. Let's throw bricks at him and let's beat his ass because we know he ain't gonna do shit. Because they knew that the other guys wasn't fucking around with him. But of course, again, back in those old days, and you still have a lot of people who are still stuck in that, go to church, and we need to bring back the nuclear family, and black men and black kids are always in and out of jail because they're not going to church, and we need to prove to white people that we're not like all those other Negroes, and the same types who sit up who embrace these Cosby Show different world types. Because they care too much about how other people view them. They don't understand that it's better to be hated for who you are than to be liked for who the fuck you're not. And let me elaborate on something that Advocatus Diaboli said in the topic that he had written about why black people stop caring about black respectability politics. And I'm going to post it as a link in the description. And at the end of the day, it's like after the 1970s blaxploitation era came to an end, and the 1970s movies like Superfly and all that pimp shit, here came another type of black respectability politics. A lot of entertainers, Bill Cosby, look what they're doing to him, and even Chris Rock, they pulled him over several times. A lot of black entertainers, they made billions of dollars, millions of dollars playing playing respectable characters, and even playing gentle giant types like these Michael Clark Duncan's in the Green Mile. I never saw that movie. I had no desire to. And they made billions of dollars trying to prove to people that they're not like all those other niggers. Oh, there's a difference between black people and niggas, and they made millions of dollars trying to prove to Whitey that they're not like all those other Negroes and shit, begging for white acceptance, which to me that's a modern day minstrel show. And every time a nigga get killed by the damn police, you turn on YouTube, who do you see? O'Shea Duke Jackson, fucking Tommy Sotomayor, and Obsidian, and all these other jackasses. Or you turn on TV, who do you see? Stephen A. Smith, Charles Barkley, Sheriff David Clark, and Colin Powell, and Barack Obama, and Bill Cosby, and they change the fucking subject. They talk about a whole bunch of shit that has nothing to do with the fact that a nigga just got killed, and he lost his life, and he lost a limb. They start talking about the importance of education, pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, IQ, and the importance of the nuclear family, and some black preacher talking about, oh, black men and black women must get married, and all other assorted bullshit that has nothing to do with the fact that somebody just got killed. Okay, so what? Alton Sterling was a registered sex offender who got into some shit 10, 15 years ago. So, and Dylan Roof went inside of a black church in South Carolina and started shooting up niggers. Cops arrested him. They didn't kill him. They took him to a fucking Burger King. Because that's like, to them, that was his reward for killing some niggers. So when you put two and two together, what the fuck is really going on? And young people see this, they're like Carlton in that one episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Will got shot by a robber. And Carlton was about to take a gun and kill someone. He was livid about the fact that Will ended up getting shot. And Carlton was like, I feel like everything my father told me was a damn lie. My father told me to obey the law and be a good member of society. And some robber pull a gun out on me and shoot me or one of my family members. That makes me feel like I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. And that's how a lot of young people feel today. Even for the ones who you think are obsessed with BET and twerk videos or whatever, they know that in the back of their mind, which is why you go on Facebook and you see t-shirts or memes saying, dear white people, we are not our ancestors, we are not our grandparents, we will fuck you up, don't let your President Trump get you fucked up, sincerely these hands. Young black man who went to the military, went over to Dallas, Texas, he killed like 15 cops because of this. And at the end of the day, just like during the old days of the civil rights movement, even in today's generation, you have these obedient, servile, good, educated lames or whatever. You know, whites treat them a whole lot better than those who do have more self-respect, more balls, more spine, more masculinity, and people who know in the back of their mind what the fuck's up. People back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, they literally believed that, oh, well, if you just act obedient and stay away from those thugs and stay away from those drug dealers, then everything will be all right. And a lot of people believed that for a long time, and it worked. But then by the time the war on drugs became a huge success back in the 80s and the 90s, a lot of the children and the grandchildren of these respectable Negroes, they had to learn the hard way that cops and racist whites don't care about trying to separate you from those quote-unquote thug, drug-dealing niggers. You got the guilty by association fallacy. You could be at the wrong place, wrong time. Cops pull you over. They try to find some shit on you, and if they can't, they just pin some shit on you just so that they can get their quotas met. Now you have the internet and Facebook, and a lot of young generation know better. They know in the back of their mind that, you know, it's not about trying to act respectable. And, you know, a lot of the black elders are elders. They like, look, don't come at me with them fairy tales no more. You come at me with that bullshit, fuck you. This is why you have a lot of young people who don't have no respect for older blacks. Because instead of saying by any means necessary, and instead of saying over my dead body or acting like the Japanese and saying death before dishonor, a lot of people have accepted it. We know better now. I've been through this. It's not about, oh, you niggers are thugs and you listen to rap music, you don't wear suits and ties. Racist ones, they just don't like the fact that you fucking exist. And if they want to kill you all, if they could kill you all at the push of one button, they would. We understand that all this talk about pulling yourself up by the bootstraps and conservatism is just an excuse to try to get us to take off our minds off of what the fuck is really going on. We also understand that, white racism is just, certain groups of people trying to scratch an insatiable itch to try to hurt people who are vulnerable, who cannot fight back. Asians who know this, but instead of, trying to fight the monster, they have kids and grandkids, and what do? They want to call themselves trying to protect their offspring from the monster instead of trying to fight it, which is why you have some older blacks who have kids, and I've heard stories about how you had some fathers who went off on their sons and daughters. I had one guy tell me that he got into it with his son. Him and his son got into an argument. He broke his son's arm. This is the only way I'm going to protect you. That'll be the last time you ever do this and that and the third. I'd be damned if I have a black son end up going to jail. That's why you got all these black boys in and out of jail, because ain't nobody putting their foot in their ass. These same type of Negroes who will treat people out there in the street better than they treat their own damn offspring. And then they'll justify it by saying, well, I'm just trying to protect you. Because let's be 100% real, alright? I had another guy tell me that he had a son who was 17 playing football, and he beat his son's ass with a lead pipe. And I think to myself, I can understand discipline whenever kids do some fucked up shit. Kids and teenagers do some stupid fucked up shit. But what kind of man would do that to his own son, his own flesh and blood? So, same exact reason why you do have a lot of black on black crime, because niggas are too scared and too powerless to do it to anybody else. Because I don't care how much of a hard ass, how tough you think you are. A father who would do something like that to his son, he probably did that because he knows in the back of his mind there's a lot of people who he would not have done that shit to and gotten away with it. I don't care how tough or how thug or how badass you think you are. There's a lot of people who you know that you would not try that shit on, let alone try that shit on and succeed at it. Would he have broken a cop's arm if a cop pulled a gun out on him? Think about it. It's like in prison. I don't care how tough or how thug or how alpha or hard ass you think you are. You might be tough or hard ass, but if you're surrounded by 5-10 different people waiting to run a train on you or rape you or kill your ass, you are powerless. So why do some people do that? Well, because some people know in the back of their mind that they can try it on certain groups of people who are vulnerable or who can't fight back. Knock on wood, they do fight back and defend themselves, and all of a sudden all hell breaks loose. My grandmother was the same way, and that's one of the many reasons why I don't deal with her, because every time I see her, she's always coming at me with this church bullshit, all that didn't do nothing, oh, he's such a good boy bullshit. And keep you locked up in the house because they're afraid of white wrath, so they try to inject you with Willie Lynch syndrome, and you do have a lot of, and I'm not talking about black mothers or black women in general. Some of them are on that bullshit. Some of them they know better. But you do have some black men who are on that same old bullshit. But now in another sense, some people might believe that this is no different from how Asian parents treat their kids, because you have some Asian parents whose relationships with their kids is like an employer-employee relationship. The reason why you have women like this Amy Schwa, Tiger Mom woman, I call her white supremacy's Jisha massage bitch. Why is she saying that her kids are not allowed, her daughters are not allowed to do this? They got to sit at home and play the piano or the violin all day, because that's her way of trying to get her kids to try to fit in a white society. Which, if you ask some people, that's a different form of abuse. And I know that there's a lot of other cultures who treat their kids the same exact way, overachieving and, trying to get their kids to overachieve, sports nut fathers and kids who try to, parents and grandparents who push their kids to be preachers and teachers and all of that type of nonsense. And then in addition to that, you have these, thank you too. You have some parents who push their kids into show business, not because it's something that they really want to do, but because some of them, they want to use their children as bargaining chips to try to fit in a white society, or they just want, or they have a pipe dream or a hoop dream. And then some of you might sit up and say, well, how is that any different from you having some black women who have kids just so that they can use their kids as bargaining chips for the welfare state? Well, you know why some people do that? Same exact reason why some people, by their own admission, choose to live a life of drugs and prostitution instead of getting a 9-to-5 job. Because the fact of the matter is that people who are happy, who have a sense of self-respect, and who are content with themselves, they don't make good employees. People who have nice jobs are people who definitely are easily distraught. They're fearful, they're timid, and they don't mind killing themselves and hurting themselves just so that they can get more and more approval from their abusers and from their slave masters. Well, the same thing can be said about these black respectability Negroes and a handful of older blacks who are still stuck on that shit. And then by the time they have kids and grandkids, they tell them, oh, you know, they talk this black respectability politics bullshit in the black community, interfering with their sexual and social development. Because let's face it, like someone said somewhere on the internet, black respectability politics is like telling a person that in order for them to prevent themselves from getting killed by the police, you have to wear suits and ties every day and live your life as if your life is a big ass job interview. And some people believe that because just like you had Mark Furman during the OJ trial, that racist detective, he got caught saying, well, if you see a nigger driving a Volvo and he's not wearing a suit and a tie, he must be dealing drugs. You pull him over and you beat his ass, blah, 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 whatever. So you have a lot of people who will accept that. It's a mind game.